Hey everybody, it's the Trout, and welcome to another episode of the Trout Show. Thank you so much for stopping by. Now, this is part two of my interview with the guitar tech for Buddy Guy, Connor Korte. And the reason I decided to make a part two is Connor talks details about everything, every guitar, all the strings, the amplification, all the effects, everything that Buddy uses when he's on tour. He has some interesting stories also about why does Buddy play a polka dotted guitar. It's pretty touching, really. So I decided to make this episode so Connor could explain all that information. And if you're like me and want to know all that details about what kind of strings he uses and the amplification, his tubes and all that stuff, it's on this episode. But he also talks about working with the great Kingfish, another up and coming, well, he's not really up and coming, he's up there now, great blues player. He does his guitar work too. Also, Connor talks about what he's got planned for the future. He has his own record label. He's helping out people that want to get into blues, musicians that is, that want to make a breakthrough in the blues industry. So I decided this would be a good time to let Connor talk more about his skill set and the history of his work with Buddy Guy and Kingfish. So sit back, enjoy this episode. Part two, Connor Korte, guitar tech for Buddy Guy and Kingfish. That's next on The Trout Show. What's his rig?
So he runs two Fender Basements. Both of them are hand wired from Fender. These amps were in storage for a while because the previous tech was kind of getting tired of them breaking down on him all the time.
Yeah, because they're old.
No, they're actually really new.
Like they're new?
Yeah, they're from 2015.
Oh yeah, they're not that old. Yeah.
So
and what do they have in them? 212s or what is it? They're 410s.
It's 410s. 410s. He uses Alessandro Eminent speakers that I recently put in there. They sound amazing. Yeah, so they're hand wired. The wood on one of them, the main one that is incredible. It's not even comparable to the other one. The wood is actually from the corner store his mother used to go to when he was in when he lived in Louisiana. So they took the pine from the countertops there and they made it all hand wired. They tried to get it as close to his original 59 Bassman as they could. Of course, you can't really do that because the capacitors and the resistors and
they don't make
all those things, even the wiring harness inside of there, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
So they got it as close as they could. And they sat in storage because they kept breaking or busting, and they're hand wired. I mean, usually all the other 59 Bassman LTDs are just circuit boards. They put them in there or circuit boards.
Mass produced.
Yeah. So I got them out of storage. And I was like, I got to get these set up. I know that these sound good. I heard them in January. I heard one of them, really, the main one, the real pine one. And yeah, I was like, what's going on with these things? I really dove into amps, like really learned, started bringing back my old, trying to open up the old textbooks of my past days of being a guitar tech and all that stuff in the music store. I took that amp apart. Me and Sage took that amp apart, changed the bias capacitor in it. You have to bias amps. You got to make sure that they're biased correctly. Die out. Of course, they were biased way too hot. So I'm not saying Chris didn't know what he was doing, but from what I've heard, amps weren't his specifics. So he just got tired of fixing them. So I got the amp all fixed up. Amp's great. I got the other one out. Had to fix same issue, same thing. Got him up and running. Buddy was, looking back, and he was like, and looked at me, and he was like, right then and there, I knew like that's what he's been looking for. And being his tech, I was chasing a tone for a while, and getting back to, and I'll get back to his rig in just a second, but
Yeah, that's all right. Go ahead.
chasing his tone. For me, it felt like decades, but he wanted a specific tone, and I'm the kind of guy with Buddy. I'm not afraid. I'll put a pedal out, on
Oh
there,
yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
give him a different guitar, or change the tubes, put a different tube in there, or just experimenting. So I really had to fix the rig. Like the rig, it was simple, but there's a lot of different things that I needed to do in order to make it better. And um and a lot of that had to just be trial and error with Buddy. And I built his trust. Now, of course, you know, him being 87, now 88, or he was 86 at the time, or 85. You know, he's been around a while, and he's had techs who were
Oh
great,
yeah.
and some that weren't, and some that had experience, and some that didn't, and
He's been
you
through a
know,
lot. Yeah.
been through a lot. So he knows what he wants, and people might not know this, but he's picky. He's
Oh, I
very
would think so. After
he's very
playing
picky about his tone.
60 some years
Yeah,
playing, of course he's
yeah.
picky.
So getting back to his rig, what he plays. He plays two Fender Basemans, both hand wired pine cabinets. Alessandro, the 10-inch speakers. I forgot the GC or GS 59s. Forgot what they're called off the top of my head. I can actually look it up. Speakers. So Buddy uses Eminence GA10 SC 59s. So they're the 10-inch speakers. Alessandro's, they sound great. He had the original P10Rs from Jensen, but I didn't like the tone of them. The Eminence sound so natural, so close to his original 59, which he still has, which is covered in wallpaper and he's carried around that amp in Africa, and
Oh
all
man.
different things. um So he uses that. He uses getting. I mean, I can get even really specific. His tubes are tungstels, 6L6s. He's using a Softtech 5AR4 for his his rectifier tube. He doesn't use solid state rectifiers because they just don't sound good. And then I use Electro Harmonics I use 12AX7, 12AX7, and a 12AY7. So that cuts the gain down. And it doesn't give it so much drive, so to say, not a lot of gain, because if you use 12AX7, it's 100% gain.
Yeah.
So there's differences in the gain with that tube. So I experimented with that, trying to find the right V1 tube, and I found the right one. And he uses those 2 amps. He's got, on the road, I have my Guitar World, so to say. It's a big vault that I bought locally here, that was used. And I was like, well, I'm getting tired of getting the guitar boat out, and getting the guitars out of their cases, and getting, it's just a pain in the butt. I just want them all to live in one place. So
Sure. Yeah.
I brought, he on the road, he has his 1988 Fender Strat, the cream color one that he loves. I mean, he adores. That's his baby. I mean, that he doesn't want any. It says Lucille, like BB's.
Yeah.
His Lucille. That's his Lucille.
Jimmy had the white one.
The
That's what he
white.
played. The white one he played. When I saw him
Yep.
play, he played it for 2 songs, and then the tech came out and grabbed it and
Yeah.
gave him like a sunburst. That was the
Yeah.
one that they loved. Yeah.
Of course. So he plays. So that's the main one he plays. On the road, I have his original polka dot, from 91, I believe. It was made in 91.
But that was made for him, wasn't it?
That was made for him. Yeah. So the
He was the
story.
one that came up with the polka dot deal, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
So
that's what I thought.
his mother, he promised his mother that he'd get a polka dot Cadillac, and she was very sick.
I'm not
she
laughing at that. I just think it's funny what people end up doing.
yeah. So he promised his mother a polka dot Cadillac when he was going to go up to Chicago, but he unfortunately never did that, and she passed away.
So
So
he
he
honors her by playing the polka
honors her
dot.
by having polka dots.
That's
So
that's a cool story, my friend. That's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So I have his original black and white on the road with me. Um, and I found his white and black polka dot that you probably saw with him playing with the Rolling Stones. Um,
Oh,
uh,
yeah. I've seen that video.
Black
Yeah,
one. He also
yeah.
played it at I think it was the Kennedy Center Honors or all those major events. He was playing that.
Yeah, because they played Crossroads here when they were here the last time, and I can't
Yeah.
remember. That was it had to be pre-pandemic, I think.
Yeah. So that was
Because
2000 that guitar is 2006. Um the white and black polka dot. All these are master builds. So the
yeah,
black
I'm
and
sure.
white the black and white is Larry Brooks, made by Larry Brooks. His cream one is Michael Stevens, and the white one is, I forgot what the guy's name is. I'm not sure. I totally blanked out. He's got a blue and white polka dot Strat. He's got, I got on the road the yellow and purple polka dot that's from LSU. The LSU gave him. And then I got the blue and white, the yellow and purple, and then I just got him made a relic polka dot, black and white, over top of a 58 colored Strat. So his original 58 got stolen from him.
Oh, wow.
The one that you see him used to play all the time when he was younger, got stolen. And I decided what better way than put both worlds together. And I made
That's cool.
a relic,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, it looks all relicked up, black and white over the three-tone sunburst. So we have that. So black and white, white and black, the relic, the blue and white, the yellow and purple, and then his cream one. So I have a lot of guitars.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you do. But here,
Yeah.
so whose brand is what's his guitar strings?
So well, he of course he uses Fender guitars, all master built. I want to also say this: Paul Waller made the blue and white, the purple and
Mm,
or yellow and purple, and the relic. Strings, he uses 10 through 46 Ernie balls.
okay.
I've been getting into the Paradigm series of Ernie Ball. Yeah, so I use those, and I learned from, I don't know if you've heard of Renee Martinez.
Sounds familiar to me, yeah.
Renee Martinez was Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar tech.
Ah, okay.
He was also John Mayer's guitar tech and
Yeah.
a whole bunch of other musicians. As when I started the gig with Buddy, I was having trouble, either tuning because Buddy bends the string so hard,
Yes, he
or
does.
breaking a string. And he taught me the wire insulation trick of putting wire insulation at the bottom where the string meets the bridge in the saddle, so that the friction of the string doesn't rub up against
The bridge.
the bridge, so that it doesn't snap or break. And of course, making sure you have your burr free on the saddles
Oh,
and make sure
yeah.
they're clean, and lubricating all the nut slot and the saddles and even the string tree. And then he's got open slot tuners on his guitars. So the vintage open slot tuners, a lot of people put the string in the hole. I don't put the string in the hole. I wrap it around and lock it in there. And what that does is that creates a tighter grip against the string,
Yeah.
and the guitar pretty much stays in tune unless Buddy touches it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
tunes it to the
Yeah,
way
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
most of the time he hears something on the D string and it's tuning it, but it's the guitar's in tune when he gives it back to me. Like maybe the high E will go a little out of tune, but most of the entire show is pretty much in tune. Even when he beats it with the drumstick, I mean that guitar stays in tune. So Ernie balls, and I gotta stretch the crap out of those strings. I mean,
Oh, I was going to ask you, what do you have to do to
I
it
have
before you?
calluses all on my fingers from stretching strings because I will sit there and I will make sure I stretch those strings as much as possible.
Yeah.
Here's a funny story. Side note: first show I did with Buddy, I restrung the guitar. I thought I stretched the strings enough, and I restrung it with the string inside the hole and just wound it normally. Buddy played the first song. Second song, when he went to Hoochie Coochie Man, guitar was completely out of tune.
Ooh.
And it's funny, he told me after, of course he got it into tune, and it's not one string, it was all the strings. And I thought I stretched it.
Yeah.
And he told me don't let that happen again. And it hasn't happened since. He doesn't mind breaking his strings sometimes,
It happens.
and knock on wood, he hasn't broken a string in probably a year and a half. With the way that I do it, I don't know. It just works. He just doesn't break it.
But he has what does he use on the floor? I know he uses a wah-wah every once in a while.
Yeah, so
When he does this, I knew Jimmy, and he talks about Jimmy and all that stuff. Yeah.
so he has his wah. It's a Dunlop,
Yeah.
Buddy Guy signature model.
Of course, he has his own signature.
I've gone through polka dot, the polka dot manufacturer ones that are out there. Yep. I've used. Buddy gave me his personal wah that he has, that he had. It's like one of like the first ones that they gave to him. He uses a gold Buddy Guy wah. The engager switch is actually out for deep, more of a deeper tone. And then
Is it on all the time, or does he still have to?
no, he still
So
has to put.
it's just like you normally. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been interesting lately. Trying to get it in the right position because he's having some issues with his back or
Oh,
something.
I'm sure.
So he uses here's how the gain structure works with the guitars and the amps. Wireless 84Q system. So 4 channels of wireless. The first channel is a wireless microphone, and then the rest are guitars. So it comes out of that into a Morley ABCY box. Out of that into a secret weapon. It just gives them a little bit more grit, but it's a hand wired powder tag, it's called. It's a PK 808, so it's kind of like a TS 808, but it's hand wired. It's a guy out of Naperville who makes a Michael Collins, I think is his name, not Michael Stevens, Michael Collins. And yeah, so I use that, and that's a secret weapon. It kind of gets rid of the overtones of the lows and gives them a little bit more grit and sustain. Of course, those amps are running on 12, everything besides the bass, on the bright channel.
Yeah.
And he's using them incredibly hot. I mean, those things are blasting.
What's funny about him to me is the fact that we were talking about, you just mentioned B. King earlier. He was more of a, well, of course, he played the 335, but he was more of a mellow player. And Buddy, he plays a lot of high notes with not a. It's really kind of thin to me, and I know he likes that.
Yeah,
but it's like I need some grit in it for me. That's just me.
Yeah.
So when he starts doing it, I'm going like, that's kind of thin. But I'm going like, what am I arguing with? The guy's done it for 60 years. I'm not going to argue with a guy that does it. So let me ask you just a couple other things about it. When you're with him, this is a question I ask people when they're famous. Does he get asked a lot for autographs? And people
Oh yeah.
I mean, because when I was talking to the gentleman, his personal friend of Eric's, I said, Eric Clapton, what's it like going out to lunch or something?
Mm.
And I said, because I'd heard story, and other people have told me this. Does people ask you for, he goes, Rick, it's hard, it's guitars,
Mhm.
amps, I mean, not amps, but albums, everything you can think of. How does he deal with that? I mean, because he's a famous person.
Yeah.
You don't want to, and I would imagine a lot of these people just want the autograph so they can sell it and make money. That's what I feel a lot of it is. It's not they're doing it for their own. They don't stand out there for 4 hours to go, oh man, I can sell this for, yeah, that's more what it's
Mhm.
like. How does he deal with that?
So there's two scenarios. First scenario is when he's at his club, which he's there every time that he's not on the road. He's there every night that the club is open. Um, he goes up on stage and sings with the band. Goes up there and does maybe a 10 minute thing. Gets off stage, then he goes straight to the front counter and sells merch.
Ah,
When he sells merch, he signs every single thing until the line is done.
that's because it is club. Yeah.
Club, right?
That's
So
how you
he'll
get
do
more
that.
people to show up.
So he'll do that. But when we're on the road, it's a little different. Um, our merch guy Kevin, he gets Buddy to sign albums and the LPs and the vinyls and posters and guitar straps. I mean, I have never seen that amount of merch get signed in a night.
Wow.
Like every single night, Buddy's in his green room signing
Signing.
all these different things. So there's merch signed already at the
That's pretty cool.
the front
Yeah.
merch counter. But as far as people coming up to him, like when we're on the road, for instance, we just had gotten back from North Carolina. That was the last show.
Right.
So we got into Chicago O'Hare. We're downstairs of the luggage thing, and there's these two young kids. I mean, maybe 30s, like mid 30s, late 20s. Um, they came up and they had like professional pictures of Buddy, like the old pictures that like a record label would have of
Yeah,
like
yeah. 8x10 glossies we used to call
yeah,
it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So they had those, and they're my age, and Buddy's sitting there. They run straight up to him, and of course, being protective as most of us are, myself and Greg, who's on the
Yeah.
road,
Yeah.
went straight to Buddy's side and was like, "Are you okay? Like,
Yeah,
do
yeah,
you
yeah.
want to sign these?"
Yeah.
And Buddy looks at them. He's like, "You know, usually I try not to sign these things because they end up on eBay."
Yep.
And
Yep.
he goes into the story about how Eric Clapton, doesn't like signing things because they end up on
And
eBay.
yeah, that's exactly right.
So, it really depends on his mood, but most of the time he'll sign things. It's the strangest thing when we're in airports. I don't know how people find us in Brazil. I mean, we're usually like the first ones out, and we're usually the first ones in the airport. I don't know how these people found us, but there was like 5 people, maybe 6, 7, waiting near the TSA like entrance to have them sign
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
How they found our flight, I don't know. Maybe they were waiting there all night. I don't know. But usually he's giving to people and he will sign for them. But if it's the wrong time
Oh
and he
yeah. It's all a
tired,
mood thing. It's all a
um,
mood thing. You
he'll
know,
he, he'll just say, most of the time he'll look at me or he'll look at Max
and
and we'll
say,
say, just kind of look
yeah, the
and
look.
looking at us for, should I do this? Should I not? And usually if he gives us a look, we'll say, not right now. Like
Yeah.
if he's coming off stage and there's
He didn't
somebody
want to do
outside,
it. No.
he ain't gonna do it. Yeah,
I always wonder, I think the hardest thing would be to a certain degree, you love it and hate it at the same time
of course.
because they're there. They made you, so to
Yeah.
speak. I think it used to be that Steve Martin carried around a business card. When
Hmm.
people asked him his autograph, he just pulled out the business card and it just said Steve Martin on it.
Smart.
Which was kind of like people are like, oh man, I got his art. Well, what is it? It's his business
Yeah.
card. Well, how do I know that it says
Yeah.
Steve Martin on it?
Exactly. Someone could have just given you a business card and then Steve
Yeah,
Martin on
but
it.
I know what it is. So what's the next? I mean, obviously you're going to work with him for until he decides to
Of
hang it
course.
up. What's the big goal for you?
Well, I've got a lot of projects, of course, like I usually
Well,
do.
the thing that you talked about on the blues thing, man, I thought about that, but I thought about it more of looking at a documentary about blues, but from a perspective of people don't understand it. They
Yeah.
hear about the history about it, all that stuff, but where it all got started, it's really Americana. It's not, it didn't come from anywhere else. People have talked, well, it came from slaves. What? It doesn't matter. It's American.
Yep.
So I admire you for doing that. Love, that's a lot of
Mhm.
work. I understand that.
Yeah.
So
So blue,
anyway,
you know, where do I end up going from after Buddy? You know,
well, you don't know. You
yeah.
got a lot of stuff, but I
I,
mean, what's your big dream, I
I
guess, to speak? Or do you
so
you may have a lot of projects that you still want to do. Obviously, you're a young
I, I
guy.
I have a lot of projects. So the great thing about touring with Buddy, we had a lot of great openers. We had Eric Gales, we had Ali Venable, we had Bobby Rush, we had I mean tons of people. One of them stuck out the most, and I've been now touring with him when I'm off with Buddy is Kingfish.
Because it's,
He's an incredible human being.
and Eric Gales is another one, but he's the one. There's just certain people that that's just the thing about blues that I like. Now, it's a niche market. We all know that. You
Yep.
either like it or you don't. There's nothing in between.
Yep.
And if you like it, you're a lifetime fan.
Yes.
And you're going to go, just like you had the club and you're doing that thing, and you want to bring people in and get exposed to people because really, we're both guitar players. It's three chords.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unless you're playing Thrill Is Gone and it's four
Or
chords.
five. Yep. Yep.
So I'm always amazed how much they can squeeze out of
Mhm.
three chords. I think that was the one thing that I liked about it more than anything else. And Buddy, when I see Buddy, he's got a personality that's different than most blues players.
Mhm.
A lot of blues players want to come up, kind of do their thing. I'm a blues player. I got this coolness, feature about me. And he has that personality that he talks to the crowd and all that stuff that really kind of I enjoy a lot.
Yeah. Tells the stories.
You start back up this week on tour,
Tomorrow. Yeah. Well, tomorrow we're actually leaving in the morning.
and
So
how many dates you got lined? I was going to look at his site, but I
we have
forgot.
we have 11 shows left this year. But in the in the round in the intermediate of these of Buddy's shows and the rest of the year, I am going to be going out with Kingfish as his guitar tech, and I've been filling in my calendar, and Kingfish has never had a guitar tech, and being on the road with Buddy and having him open up
Sure.
for Buddy, I was like, let me set up your guitar, man. Like him and I started creating a relationship.
Yeah.
I just started creating relationships with people, and having Kingfish on the road with us and opening up tons of dates. I was setting up his guitars. I was helping him with his amps. His amps blew up. I literally put new shoes, biased it, did all that stuff, you
Yeah.
know. And he's like, man, I really need somebody like you. And at that point, he wasn't ready for a guitar tech.
Sure.
Now he is, and
Yeah.
now he's really climbing. And I know his manager, and he's like, man, and I throughout the thought of when I'm not with Buddy, dude, I would love to be out on the road with you guys. I don't care how much it pays. Money is no issue with me.
Yeah.
I just want to be on the road with you because this is
Yeah.
something I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And of course I'm doing it. So it's just a constant thing for me to say, I don't care about the money. I'll just come out and do it.
Yeah.
So I've been going out on the road with Kingfish, and I've been doing that for about a year now. And when I'm out with Buddy, I have somebody filling in for me. His name's Phil, actually. So I have Phil filling in for
Phil is
me.
filling in for you.
Yes. So Phil is doing that while I'm on the road with Buddy, and when the gaps are even, I can go out with Kingfish. But yeah, I've been going out with him for about a year, and he's an incredible human being. He's got his own style of playing. He's the most humble person I've ever met in my entire life, besides Carlos Santana. Carlos Santana is an incredible human being too, as well. And yeah, I mean, Kingfish that's my next step. But I'm also, you know, when I'm not on the road with either, when both of them are off the road and I'm off
Right.
the road, you know, I had my own booking agency for blues musicians,
Saw that.
and I turned it into a more so record label. So now I'm producing records for young blues musicians, and you know, getting them in the studio to create music. And I'm not just gonna, you know, work with some random person who emails me. You know, it has to be somebody I create a relationship with, because when you're producing somebody's album, you have to have a relationship with them. It's all about trust. And so yeah, so I'm producing. I already produced a guy named Nick Alexander, his album. It's called Little Hoochie. And he's the son of Lindsay Alexander, my blues father. And I'm also doing Joe Doyle's, a young gentleman, Joe Doyle. I actually just got back from the studio this morning at like 4 o'clock. So when I'm off, I'm in the studio, and I'm also working alongside Phil, because I've met Phil way back when I was recording at the studio at a young age.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm working with Sage, or the monitor production manager for Buddy. So we're actually working on Marty Salmon's recent album. Marty Salmon was Buddy Guy's piano player who passed away, unfortunately, who is a dear close friend of ours. And we're working on his last album that he did before he passed away that never got finished. So we're finishing it for him. And we're taking that album and some other work, and we already have gone there, but we're mixing at Abbey Road Studios in London.
3 days ago, I didn't know who you were. Whenever it was, I got in touch with you. The only reason I know you is because you liked a picture on Instagram that I put up of Buddy Guy. And I just put that up because I don't know Buddy Guy. I just thought, what can you say? I mean, what
Yeah.
are you going to, he's 88 years old. He's still doing his thing. That's the way the world works.
Yep.
And I looked you up and I went, oh, I got to talk to the guitar tech, this guy, just because I want to know what you do, not just because of
Yeah.
Buddy, but
Yeah.
what an interesting story. What an interesting story you have.
Yeah.
Really do. And
I
I
really
want
need to write a book.
to me, it's more about the stories,
Yeah.
you know, because just like you, your overnight success.
Yeah. We'll see about that. I don't know about
No, but I'm
overnight.
just saying, dude,
Yeah. Yeah.
how many
Yeah.
years did it take you to get to Buddy Guy?
Oh,
A
over.
long time.
Yeah, a very long
And that
time.
was a lot of time and effort you put in with your life to go where you want to go. And I admire that
I
a
appreciate
lot.
that. Thank you very much.